Okay. I want to start today's deep dive with a string of text. It's a URL, actually, and bear with me because I really want to read the whole thing out loud. It goes uh, http://103.211.202.97 5002 / cash register dash voucher ledger.
Very catchy. I can totally see that on a billboard in Times Square.
I know, right? It sounds like the most boring thing in the world. Just a random endpoint on a server somewhere, probably gathering digital dust. But here's the premise of our deep dive today and why we are obsessing over this specific line of code. That string of text. It is essentially a digital shield.
It is. And it's not just a shield against bad data, it's a shield against some of the most aggressive wallet-draining financial penalties in the Indian tax code.
So welcome to the deep dive. We are looking at a specific database view called VLUW_cash register _ voucher ledger.
Let's just save ourselves the breath and call it the cash register view.
Deal. Our mission today is to unpack how this specific SQL view converts raw, messy accounting data into a literal forensic extraction of financial reality.
Right.
We're talking about how to survive an audit, how to handle the strictures of the Income Tax Act, and how to navigate the absolute minefield that is GST compliance.
And we really need to be clear about the stakes here for you, the listener, because in the modern regulatory environment, specifically in India, the difference between a clean audit and a massive penalty often comes down to just one thing, and that's data availability.
Right. It's not just about having the receipts in a shoebox anymore.
Exactly. It's about how instantly and how accurately you can present them when the officer actually asks for them.
So let's start at the beginning here. We have this endpoint, this cash register view. For the non-technical listener, what are we actually looking at? Because on the surface, it just looks like a massive spreadsheet of numbers.
Ideally, it shouldn't look like a spreadsheet. It should look like a filter. Think of your accounting software, let's say Tally, for instance, as a really messy room.
Okay.
You've got everything in there. You've got valid transactions, mistakes you crossed out, drafts you never sent, optional vouchers you were just testing out.
So it's the noise. All the stuff that didn't actually happen, or at least shouldn't count toward the final numbers.
Yeah, exactly. If you hand that raw data to an auditor, you're handing them the noise too. You're giving them the ammunition to find confusion. What this cash register dash voucher ledger view does is it creates a virtual table. It specifically targets all transactions affecting bank accounts and cash in hand groups.
But it's not just a raw dump of those groups, right?
No, and this is the key part. It applies a rigorous logic filter to that data.
What kind of filter?
It automatically strips out anything marked as is void, is canceled, or ICE optional.
Okay, hold on. I want to push back on that a little bit.
Yeah.
If I canceled a voucher in my accounting software, isn't it effectively gone? Why do I need a special SQL view to tell me it's not there?
That is a completely fair question. In the software interface, like on your actual screen, it looks gone. It might be grayed out or it vanishes from your daybook. But in the underlying database, that record often still exists. It's just flagged differently.
Oh, I see.
Right. So if you run a generic query, or if an auditor runs a raw export of the tables, they might accidentally pull those voided numbers right into a tax calculation.
And suddenly you are paying tax on money you never actually received.
Which is disastrous. But the inverse is actually worse. When you are building a legal defense, you need the clean reality. You need to see exactly what money moved and where, entirely without the confusion of clerical errors.
Makes sense.
This view presents a forensic extraction of the financial facts. It's not about what did we type, it's about what actually happened.
What actually happened? That distinction is really interesting. It brings up a point from our sources about the mutability of accounting software, which honestly sounded like a sci-fi term to me when I read
Well,
it.
it does sound like that, doesn't it? But it's a very real, very dangerous problem. We call it the silent edit. Tally, for instance, is incredibly flexible.
Which is why accountants love it.
Oh, they adore it. Because if you make a mistake in a date, you just go back, unlock the voucher, and change it. Easy.
But an auditor hates that.
An auditor despises that. Because a balance reported to the board of directors today could be totally different tomorrow just because someone tweaked a voucher from 3 months ago. That destroys the chain of custody for the data.
It implies that history can just be rewritten at will.
Yeah. It looks suspicious, it looks like you're cooking the books, even if you are literally just fixing a simple typo.
So how does the cash register view solve that?
This is where the concept of TurboData's frozen SQL snapshots comes in. This view we are discussing captures a master ID for every single transaction.
Define master D for us. Is that like a serial number?
Think of it more like a digital fingerprint or a DNA marker. Even if you change the date or the amount later in the software interface, that master ID and the SQL snapshot remains constant. It ensures that what you are looking at is a reproducible truth.
Reproducible truth. That sounds like something a tax judge would very much appreciate.
It is absolutely essential for Section 143, subsection 2 of the Income Tax Act.
Right, the scrutiny notice.
Yeah.
That is when things get very real.
The dreaded scrutiny. When an officer sits across from you and asks, "What was the source of these funds on November 12th?" You cannot say, "Oh, let me check my software. Hopefully nobody changed it since then."
Yeah, that won't fly.
Not at all. You need a frozen, audit-proof record. That is exactly what this view provides.
This is basically preventing you from accidentally gaslighting your own auditor.
Effectively, yes. It turns your data from soft clay into solid stone.
All right, let's move from the abstract to the concrete here. The sources we're analyzing list some very specific, very scary sections of the Income Tax Act where this view is supposed to step in and save the day.
There are quite a few.
The first one is Section 40A3. They refer to this as the expense trap.
This is a classic trap, and it catches legitimate businesses constantly.
Walk us through it. What exactly is the trap?
So under Section 40A3 and 40A3A, the government is aggressively trying to curb the black economy. They really hate cash. The rule is simple. If you make an expense payment exceeding 10,000 rupees in a single day to a single person, it cannot be in cash.
It has to be digital or a check.
Yes. Account, paycheck, or in electronic mode.
But 10,000 rupees really isn't a lot of money in a B2B context. If I'm running a factory, I might spend that on tea and snacks for a client meeting, or just minor equipment repairs.
It's peanuts. Now, for transport payments, like paying a freight driver, the limit is slightly higher at 35,000 rupees, but it's still very low. If you pay more than that in cash, the consequence is binary.
What happens? Do I get a fine?
It is way worse than a fine. The entire expense is disallowed.
Meaning I can't deduct it from my revenue.
You cannot deduct it from your income. You pay tax on that money exactly as if you kept it as profit.
Oh, wow.
So you spent the money is physically gone from your pocket, but the government treats it as if you still have it and taxes you on it.
Ouch. That is a double hit. So practically speaking, how does the cash register view prevent this? Because usually people try to get around this by splitting the payment, right? I give you 9,000 in the morning and 2,000 in the evening.
Exactly, the splitting trick. And that is exactly where the human eye fails, but the SQL query succeeds. An auditor or your own internal finance team can query this view instantly.
What are they looking for?
They filter for the column ledger primary equaling cash in hand and the sale amount debit being greater than 10,000.
But does that catch the split payments?
If you write the query to aggregate by master ID or by party name and date, yes. The view allows you to see the total flow to a specific person on a specific day. Instantly, you have a list of every single potential violation across the entire company.
You catch it way before the tax man ever sees it.
You catch it before you even file.
That's powerful. It's not just looking at invoice A versus invoice B. It's looking at the aggregate behavior.
It aggregates the intent. It shows the real pattern.
Okay, so that's money going out. What about money coming in? I see Section 269 ST listed in our research here, the high-value penalty.
If 40A3 is a trap, Section 269 ST is a guillotine.
That sounds incredibly ominous.
It is absolutely designed to be. The rule says you cannot receive 2 lakhs or more in cash from a person in a single day or for a single transaction or even for a single event.
And if I do, let's say I run a high-end electronics store or maybe a private hospital, and a customer just hands me 2.5 lakhs in cash to settle a bill.
The penalty is 100% of the amount received.
Wait, 100%. So I just lose the 2.5 lakhs?
You owe the government 2.5 lakhs in penalty. You literally lose the revenue you just earned. It wipes out the transaction entirely. You gave away the goods or services for free, and you just handed the cash to the government.
That is terrifying.
Huh?
But honestly, who is taking 2 lakhs in cash these days? Is this actually a common problem for businesses?
You would be very surprised. It happens in retail all the time. It happens in event management and definitely in hospital billings where people are panicked and just want to get the payment over with.
Right.
And often it's not malicious tax evasion. It's just a clerk at the front counter who accepts the cash because the customer was insisting.
I see. So it's a process failure. The owner didn't authorize it, but the system allowed it to happen.
It's a process failure that costs you 100%. Again, the cash register view is your defense here. It captures all receipts to the cash group.
So you can spot it immediately.
Right. A chartered accountant can look at this view and set a flag. They can say, show me any receipt that hits 1.9 lakhs or above.
It's like having a digital guard dog for your cash drawer.
Precisely. It allows you to intervene before you file the return. If you find it early, you might be able to correct the accounting treatment or refund the cash and ask for a bank transfer. If the auditor finds it 2 years later during a scrutiny, you are writing a massive check.
Let's look at one more income tax section before we switch gears to GST, Section 194N, TDS on withdrawals.
Right. This one is relatively newer. The government noticed people were withdrawing massive amounts of cash from banks to run parallel operations. So they said, if you withdraw more than 1 crore in a year or 20 lakhs if you haven't filed tax returns for 3 years, the bank has to deduct TDS.
Okay, but the bank handles that, right? Why do I need a database view for it? The bank obviously knows how much I took out.
The bank knows how much you took from them. But many large businesses have accounts with HDFC, ICICI, and SBI simultaneously.
And they don't talk to each other.
They absolutely don't. But you need to know your total exposure. If you withdraw 40 lakhs from 3 different banks, none of them will deduct TDS because you are under the 1 crore limit at each individual bank.
But collectively, you've breached the 1 crore limit.
Exactly. You are entirely liable.
That is a huge blind spot.
It is. More importantly, you need to track bank-to-cash contra entries.
Contra entries.
Movements of money from your bank account directly to your cash box. The cash register view tracks these specifically across the entire group. It allows you to monitor that 1 crore threshold internally before the banks start hitting you with TDS deductions that choke your cash flow.
It really seems like the common theme here is visibility.
Visibility and aggregation. It's taking the cash and bank book concept, which is honestly hundreds of years old, dating back to the traditional Bahikata system, and finally making it robust enough for the 21st century.
Because Section 44AA mandates you keep a cash book anyway.
Yes.
Yeah.
This view is that mandatory book, but in a phrase and truth version that actually holds up in court.
Speaking of the 21st century, we really cannot talk about compliance in India without talking about the absolute beast that is GST.
The GST minefield, yes.
The sources mention Section 3133G regarding hidden vouchers, which honestly sounds like an Indiana Jones movie title.
It's a lot less mysterious and a lot more annoying. It's about the reverse charge mechanism, or RCM.
Can you break down RCM for us quickly?
Yeah.
I know our listeners know the term, but the underlying mechanics can be tricky.
Sure. Normally, the seller collects the tax and pays the government. I sell you a pen, you pay me tax, I pay the government. Simple. In reverse charge, the buyer is liable to pay the tax directly. This happens with things like goods transport agencies or certain legal services.
Okay, so I pay the tax directly to the government instead of the vendor.
Yes. But here is the catch that trips everyone up. Section 31(3)(g says that when you, the registered person, pay tax under RCM, you must issue a payment voucher at the exact time of making the payment to the supplier.
A payment voucher. So not just the invoice I got from the lawyer.
No, a specific internal document evidencing that payment. And if you don't have it, you are technically non-compliant.
Let me guess. Most accounting software focuses on the invoice, not this special internal voucher.
Bingo. Tally is great at recording the expense. It's not always great at forcing you to generate the Section 31(3)(g voucher. You might pay the lawyer, record the expense, and just move on with your day.
So how does the SQL view fix this?
The view identifies every bank or cash payment made to vendors marked for RCM. It matches the actual payment to the statutory requirement. It basically flags it and says, hey, you paid this lawyer 50,000 rupees. Where is the voucher?
It's checking your homework for you.
It ensures that for every one of those payments, a voucher actually exists, which is super critical for reporting in Table 13 of your GSTR1.
I want to touch on another GST rule from the deep dive sources because it sounds like a ticking clock. Rule 37, the 180-day rule.
Yes, the reversal of input tax credit. This one catches so many businesses off guard because it is purely based on time.
How does it work?
The rule is straightforward. If you buy something on credit and you claim the input tax credit, meaning you get the tax benefit immediately, you must pay your supplier within 180 days.
And if I don't pay them in 6 months, what if I'm just having a bad cash crunch?
Then you have to reverse that credit. You have to give the tax benefit back to the government, often with interest attached.
So you are actively penalized for having slow cash flow.
Essentially, yes. The government doesn't want you enjoying a tax break on a bill you haven't even paid yet.
So you need to know exactly how old every single debt is.
You need a highly precise creditor aging analysis.
Yep.
Because the cash register view tracks payment dates for all creditor ledgers, it automates this entirely.
It just tells you when time is up.
It alerts you. It says, hey, this invoice is 175 days old. Pay it now, or you're going to lose the tax credit.
That is a direct financial saving. That's not just compliance. That is active cash flow management.
It really is, and that bridges us perfectly to the strategic advantage here, because it's not just about avoiding fines, it's about the reconciliation nightmare.
The GSTR9C.
The GSTR9C. This is the annual audit where you have to match tax paid in books versus tax paid on portal.
And they never match.
They literally never met. It's usually a needle in a haystack search to find out why. Maybe you paid via a different bank account, maybe a challan was missed entirely.
So the view helps with that.
This view provides the book-side evidence for every single tax payment under Section 49. It gives you a clean, filtered list of exactly what went out to the government from your actual bank accounts.
It turns a 3-day reconciliation headache into a 5-minute SQL query.
Exactly.
I want to zoom out a bit here. We've talked about a lot of specific laws, but there is a broader application here for larger companies. The sources mention Clause 34 of Form 3 CD, the TDS audit, and they explicitly mention multiple companies.
Yes, this is where the SQL aspect really shines. Imagine you are the CFO of a group with 10 different subsidiaries. You have 10 different tally data files.
That is a nightmare scenario.
It is. If you want to check for cash violations or ensure TDS was deducted at the point of payment across the board, you have to open 10 files, run 10 reports, export 10 Excels.
And just pray you don't paste the wrong column somewhere.
Right. But with this view, because it's SQL-based, you have unified power. In fact, if you want, you can just ask your database a direct question. Like, would you like me to create a custom SQL query for this view that automatically flags Section 40A3 violations, meaning those cash payments over 10K across all your group companies?
Wow. One single query for everything.
One report. Total visibility across all 10 companies simultaneously. It completely changes the game from audit panic to audit defense.
I really love that phrase, audit defense. It actually reminds me of a quote from the source material that really stuck with me. It said, audit log tells you what changed. The cash register view tells you what actually existed.
That is the core philosophy here. An audit log, which everyone is super obsessed with right now, is fundamentally reactive. It shows edits, deletions, who logged in when. It's a trail of crumbs.
It's evidence of tampering.
Yes. But the cash register view is the state of reality. It's the firm foundation upon which your defense is built. It says, regardless of who logged in or what buttons they pressed, this is the money that actually moved.
So if we summarize this for you, the listener, who is this really for? Is this just for the poor accountant staying late at the office?
It's for them, certainly. It makes their lives infinitely better. But it's really for the business owner and the CFO. We're living in a digital economy now. The tax department uses advanced software. They use AI. They use big data to find discrepancies in your returns.
They certainly aren't doing it by hand with a calculator anymore.
No, they are not. So if the taxman is using software to find your mistakes, you must use software to find the truth first. You cannot bring a paper ledger to a SQL fight.
Don't bring a paper ledger to a SQL fight. That definitely needs to be on a t-shirt.
It really does. But seriously, this V_cash register _ voucher ledger handles the 3 C's of compliance.
Which are?
Cash limits, contra entries, and compliance vouchers. It perfectly bridges that massive gap between raw accounting data entry, which is often done by junior staff who might make innocent mistakes, and the statutory compliance that literally keeps the CFO out of jail.
It's interesting because we usually think of technology as a tool for making things faster.
Yeah.
But here, technology is actually making things safer.
Safer and much more transparent. Ultimately, it's about sleep.
Sleep.
The ability to sleep at night. Knowing that if a scrutiny notice arrives tomorrow morning, you aren't scrambling around your office. You have the frozen truth ready to go on day one.
That is a massively powerful benefit. Before we wrap up today's deep dive, I want to leave you with a final thought to chew on. We spend so much time looking at the profit and loss statement. We are entirely obsessed with the top line and the bottom line. How much money did we make?
It's the ultimate scorecard of business. Everyone looks at the P&L first.
Right. But here is the provocative thought for you to mull over. If your cash register view isn't audit-proof, if it isn't solid rock, how much of that profit is actually safe from the government just taking it back?
That is the real question, because profit isn't truly profit until it's safe from penalty. If you make a 10 lakh profit but get hit with a 2 lakh penalty under Section 269 ST, your margin just evaporated.
Exactly. Something to think about the next time you look at your balance sheet. Is that number real? or is it just waiting to be disallowed? That is it for this deep dive into the digital shield. Thanks for listening.
Thank you. Stay compliant.